All right, welcome everyone. It's now 5:33. Gonna go ahead, kick things off. I don't really have a whole lot to share, but I wanted to see if anyone had any housekeeping items or any other questions on the agenda. All right, Director. Commissioner Hanson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, when we get to the budget, there is something I'd like to suggest. And this one might, Sherry's here to help me explain what I'm trying to say. We have a great team of people, fantastic team of people who are well compensated. We have a process for new employees that allows them within when they come at 6 months, 2 years, and 5 years to go step up as they achieve and become a part of the team. But we have exempted the executive team from that step process. And as a result, there's a difference for somebody who's moved into an executive position from already working for the agency and somebody who moves into an executive position from outside the agency. So I would like to suggest that at this, when we do the budget, I'd like to suggest it's the express intent of the commission that executive team members also be allowed to have the step, is that the right term, step up? The step moves. There's only 2 members of the executive team who came in as new employees, and it struck me as rather obvious that they've done a lot of work, and they should be, they've done a great job from my perspective, but obviously I'm not the one who evaluates them. But nonetheless, I think I would like to see that not be, the executive team not be exempted from the step up process that are applied to new employees.
Madam President.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yeah, I think Jim and I had a little bit of a discussion about that. And I know I've spoken with the director about something very similar to that with regards to executive team members, so it's definitely worth a discussion.
Okay. Anything
So
else?
that's a heads up when we get to the budget.
Sounds good. Thank you. Director.
Thank you. Commissioners, good evening. Several things I have for you. First off, I'd like you to look at that first handout that we've given. As you know, our team did an amazing job in a very short amount of time of reimagining the intersection of 16th and Washington. At this last staff meeting, we congratulated all of them, and we followed up by also congratulating our maintenance teams who were instrumental in making this work across the board. So I thought I'd just leave this with you as a review of who was on that. On the second handout, which is this one here, I want to remind the commission that this Saturday is a very important day for all sorts of reasons. It's National Women's Equality Day. And what we shared with the staff on the all staff was these notes. And I'd like you to really take a look at where we've come for our ACH women from where we really weren't before. And I know Sherry will agree with me that a lot of these numbers, these percentages, were zero not too long ago. And so we are very blessed to have an amazing force of incredibly talented, professional, motivated, dedicated women here at the Ada County Highway District that make us incredibly strong on all options. And I did add that if you look at all the awards that we win, we generally take everything when it comes down to Compass, WTS, all the different national awards when we are competing our women against everybody else. And most recently, our superintendent, Heather Friddle, was just announced as a winner recipient of the Women's International Leadership course that'll be held in Washington, D.C. That doesn't go just to anybody. So we are very proud of the tremendous team we have across the board. But going into the 26th, I believe we are leading everybody when it comes down to the tremendous talent we have here at the district. Third, we're going to be celebrating a special event today, and that is a commissioner's anniversary of a birthday that occurred on Saturday, Commissioner McKinney, and so Sunday. Well, you weren't here for any of them anyway, so we don't care. So at the break, we do have cake. Commissioner McKinney, you'll lead the charge in that as we go forward. Commissioners, following up with, I had the opportunity here. Well, I shouldn't say that. Following Commissioner Pickering's lead, as you may have seen, she did a great job just a little bit ago on a press conference, speaking to Idaho about concerns and some of the things that we've accomplished, or we're going to accomplish very quickly at 16th and Washington. Again, following her lead, the staff, we've been what I call blue skying thoughts about multiple next step options regarding near-term, mid-term, and long-term safety initiatives that we would like to share with the commission in 2 weeks or so with a work session to kind of flush those out for all of you. Now, the intent would be for the commissioner, for us to share those thoughts that we've had with the commission, and of course have the commission then take a look at that, add more thoughts to that, and go through a collaborative process that will line out maybe some great ideas, new ideas that we can accomplish as an organization, again, in a near-term, mid-term, long-term operation to continue to enhance the safety operations here for all users in the district. So tentatively, and I still have to get her permission, tentatively, we're looking at September 6th or the 13th to have that work session here in the building. It's probably going to be a lengthy one, and that will present ideas and then stand back for your thoughts and your ideas going forward.
Madam President?
Before Commissioner McKinney, I wanted to share too really quick. So thank you, Director. And I think again, the whole point of this work session would be to have a discussion about what we've already done and doing currently as it addresses safety, and then what have been some examples of our rapid and innovative projects, and then potentially, what are some things that we can do and plan for for additional steps. And because I think honestly we haven't had a more holistic conversation when it comes to safety. We've been very like this initiative, right? And I think that's important, but obviously we're not able to encapsulate all the different things that we're doing and why they all interconnect, and the power of all of those different elements of safety and what that means for our community. And so I think that type of plan is what our communities are asking for. So basically a byproduct of the work session would be using our feedback and what we're already doing and incorporate that into a safety plan effectively, essentially. So Commissioner McKinney.
Yes, and Director, one thing that I think would be very important in all of these considerations where we're looking at locations where there have been accidents, for example, auto pedestrian accidents have been a big concern. And I think Washington and 16th is one of them where we're talking about 11th and State and so on and so forth. One thing that I think would be very helpful whenever we have these discussions is to be sure that we have all the facts in front of us. So I wonder if in preparation, whenever we're talking about a given location and safety concerns at that location, would be good to have, a history and to get the facts from the Sheriff's Department or the Boise Police Department or what have you, so that we have all the facts about, what were the direct causal factors, what were contributing factors, so we have all the information to look at before we start, considering those and making decisions. So that sort of history would be very helpful.
Yeah. Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, absolutely agree. The challenge, though, is that might be a very long, drawn-out process because although there are suggestions and innuendos of what has happened, it generally takes some amount of time for the authorities to line everything up and then say, these are the absolute facts for this issue. More than happy to provide what we know as facts, but I think there's going to be some holes there.
Well, wouldn't it be possible, I mean, the place to start is anytime there's an accident, there's a police report, right? Can we start with that? Isn't that something that's easy to get for each incident that we look at?
And if I may, I don't think the conversation isn't geared around one particular crash, right? It's very much about the entire system and like what trends we're seeing across that system. And so we don't really need to get into the details if we can see that, oh, there's a high, and like this intersection or these types of intersections continue to have these types of crashes, right? We don't need to go into the details of that. And we have that data through the Boise City platform, LTAC. I mean, we have that data. And of course, I think your point is well taken in having data be a big part of this conversation. So, but I don't think going into specific crash by crash is going to be appropriate point of the discussion. It would be more systematic.
I would disagree. If we're talking about a particular location, we need to have the facts about what has happened at that location in order to make a judgment about what needs to be done.
Okay. Commissioner
Yeah,
Goldthorpe.
because of conversations I've had just this week, I would agree with Commissioner McKinney.
So,
Hanson.
Madam President, thanks. Well, fortunately, we have great consultants, and there's lots of research out there that the Kittleson, for example, does a great job of, and I'm on their list of doing some research and providing that and saying how the built environment plays a role, why people avoid certain places, why people don't invest in certain places because there's a perception of a lack of safety, rather than wait for specific incidences that maybe raise those. Strong Towns, Transportation for America. There are plenty of research tools out there. There's a lot of research out there that I know our staff reads, and they go to conferences and get educated on. And I read some of them, and I'm on a number of lists. So I'd encourage us to maybe identify some of that research, some of the consultants that we rely on to come in and help to frame it, so it's less about crash data, but sort of the role of the built environment in both the reality and the perception of safety. So that then we can say, well, we're responsible for a portion of that built environment. How do we make that? And the reason we do certain things is not because we like it, but because the research and the data shows that this would make it a safer, more livable, a better return on the investment of public money. So that's what I'd like to see in anticipation.
Commissioner Goldthorpe, I have a question for you. So would it be helpful in this work session to look at like are you thinking of specific crashes that have happened and diving in that way, or?
Specific locations.
So you want to look more specific locations?
Yep.
And have that guide a larger safety plan? Is that what you're thinking?
No, I think we have to be flexible, period.
Oh, I would agree.
And we can, all five of us agree that if there needs to be some change made to an intersection in some way, that get it done. Mm-hmm. And I know it didn't take a whole lot of change there on 16th Street to probably make a difference going forward. Mm-hmm. But I would not paint it with a real broad brush. That's just my style.
So like one example of a strategy that could be part of this plan is something that we did with several of these crashes, is getting a commissioner from that district, the director, staff, and like going to that site, for example. So it's like that type of idea or solution, right? Again, that applies to.
As long as we know the details and the data.
Yeah.
Not just the location and, oh, what was me, we don't want to have this happen again. Well, we can't do anything about it unless we know the details.
Right. Okay.
Madam President, Commissioners, as is obvious, there will be a lot of branches and sequels as we delve into this.
But Director, to your point, I think it would be helpful in the meantime to prepare for that work session. If any of you have specifics about what your expectations are and how you would like to approach that conversation, please let me and the director know by the end of next week. Thanks, Director.
Commissioners, last night and this morning, I attended Tommy Alquist's Kerosene event that was focused on energizing and expanding Idaho's business development. There were multiple CEOs from across the country speaking, culminating with a presentation by the former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. And so what I'd like to do is give you some highlights by just a few of them, and it's mainly phrases more than in-depth. And if you'd like to explore those a little bit more, please let me know, and I'll put those things together for all of you. First off, the former Simplot CEO, Bill Whitaker, was there and learned that for the last 5 years, he has been riding motorcycles across the world.
Clear to the tip of South America.
Absolutely. Started at the beginning to tip. He's been in Africa, China, Europe, and it was all about him trying to understand that it's really all about relationships. And that's one of the key messages he gave this very powerful group of individuals that was attending this session. He was focused on making sure everybody understood that based on his experiences now, learning about different things, that nothing will ever be black and white again. I think we can learn some lessons from that as we move forward. He suggested to all of the folks in the audience that you should pursue your curiosity and such, and to commit to being a learner. His primary question that he would say everybody should ask themselves is, what if? What if this? What if that, across the board? And he ended by saying, live life with faith, hope, and compassion. And he had a lot of video pictures of all the interesting places he's been riding these motorcycles on. The next speaker that I want to show was Nick Smoot, and he's a globally respected community and economic strategist. So his main focus for the group that was there was develop businesses without leaving people behind. Very powerful message. He encouraged everybody to take bold moves. Then he had some very interesting statistics that was sort of depressing, and those were 55% of Americans do not have emergency savings, 55%. 58% of adults experience loneliness. 85% of employed workers are not engaged in work. It's costing $7.8 trillion per year in lost productivity. 77% of youth do not qualify for military service, and depression is the leading cause of disability in the U.S. for ages 15 through 43. A little bit sobering thoughts right there. Spencer Levy, who is a real estate mogul and a radio person out of the East Coast, had these to say about real estate and current funding operations. He said that we shouldn't expect any type of change at all in the economy or whatever until the Fed fund rates pivot in the first quarter of 2024. And he said they can pivot one way or they can pivot the other way, and if it's in not a good way, that'll be very interesting. He said he believes that the broader economy is expected to drop in 2024-25 timeframe if nothing changes. I thought this was kind of interesting. For real estate and real estate only, he said Wall Street is always wrong on this, and he had all these charts to prove that. He also said that although people are really concerned about inflation, the issue now is deflation, because with all of the dollars that have put in place and those have been expended, people are now most likely going to start buying less, which is, he said, was more critical than inflation. He said the commercial real estate is stagnant until the banks lend more aggressively. There were multiple CEOs of bankers in the audience, and they had some interesting discussions about that. He projects that interest rates are projected to go higher through the year, And he said that the fundamentals of the economy and real estate are good, but they're being led by retail, not commercial, not multifamily homes, not single-family homes across the board. And this was very interesting, and I think it'd be very hard for any mayor to accept this next premise. But he said that for cities, when rents go up, that means the city is winning. Now, he tried to explain that in saying that businesses invest where you have talented folks, where wages are relatively high, and people are, they're seeing that that's where people are migrating to for the better jobs. But I don't know if that went over too well in the group. Speaker Ryan, it was kind of interesting. He said that the speaker's role in Congress is like a keeper of a graveyard. Everybody is under you and nobody listens, and such. He discussed the current speaker's challenges, and that is that he has a very slim majority, which we all know, and he has to deal with the Freedom Foundation. Speaker Ryan is not a fan of the Freedom Caucus, Freedom Foundation. And he said he had to deal with Raul Labrador a lot, and so anyway. So in the past, a congressperson's success was measured by what you accomplished. Today, it's measured by being entertainers or provocateurs. He indicated that most likely there would be a continuing resolution passed in September, and then a budget agreement in late December. He does believe that the individual tax rates will go up, and he says keeping corporate tax rates at 21% for 2025 is critical for the economy. And then he spent several minutes about letting everybody know why he does not like Trump. So commissioners, that was the gist. It was a very interesting last night and this morning. And that's my report to you today, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Director.
Then I would.
All right, we'll be at ease till
At ease, and
6.
we'll bring the Cake Hearing Commission Committee. You can lead the charge.
Good evening, everyone. It's now 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to everyone in person and online for joining us today. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. First order of business is to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next order of business is to adopt the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered routine in our action items unless otherwise noted. The consent agenda is enacted by one motion. There is no separate discussion on items on the consent agenda. If a commissioner or citizen would like, they may request any item be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. If we do not have any of those requests, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Would move to approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the regular agenda. The big item, fiscal year 24 budget public hearing. It's a request for adoption. Welcome, Miss Christine Taylor.
Good evening, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, Christine Tandler, Budget Manager at the Highway District, here for an adoption hearing for the FY24 budget. Oh, hang on. Is this on? If it's on, that's not on. You gotta push it down. Oh, got it. Okay. I'm not in IT, which everyone's really glad for. All right, so I will note that ACHD did meet all of the public hearing requirements as per Idaho code. We notified the assessor, we advertised in the paper, and then it was available for a public inspection. This year we've had a very involved budget process. As you can see, we started in early March presenting with the work to the commission via work sessions for each division. In March, we did an early revenue discussion, and then the integrated 5-year work plan joined in May, had our two big ones in July, and then had the revised packet available and then sent to the paper. So we've had a very robust process this year. So some budget planning actions for FY24. We do have just under $10 million of project costs rescheduled from FY23 into 24. So are typically right-of-way and construction dollars that were originally anticipated to be completed by the end of FY23, but are anticipated to flow into 24. This has to do with when we do second adjustments for FY23, and then when we'll move that, or when those monies get moved into 24. We do have a 2.9% increase in medical premiums, and then are proposing a 6% cost of living adjustment for all employees. The budget summary, we do have a balanced budget as required by statute of $231,844,000. As you can see, a bulk of that comes from new revenue coming in. We are showing $30 million for future facilities, bulk of that being for the Traffic Operations Center. On the expenditure side, we have about $50 million in labor. Again, the future facilities at $30 million, and an astounding $105 million capital budget. This pie chart just depicts that proposed revenue, showing that that is not the proposed revenue. I apologize. I apologize greatly. That is not the revenue pie chart. I'm so sorry. That's the capital breakdown.
Does this count as a stump, Christine?
If it's self-inflicted.
I don't know if you get that credit.
Dang it. All right.
Maybe inadvertently. You'll be
Yes,
claiming.
I will.
Yeah.
I apologize for that copy paste error. We'll move on. Expenditure budget. We do have nearly 50% split between capital and ops. Of course, that's skewed a little with the capital facilities. The construction of the traffic operations yard is their maintenance and the development and technical services bringing up those other two major categories. Here's the chart, same chart, different colors. Capital budget of $105 million. As you can see, capital investment program. Those are road expansion projects, which include the pathways and the signalization of intersections. And with all of those projects, we do the bike lanes, the sidewalks, pathways, the ADA improvements, and all that are needed to be done along those areas, as well as capital maintenance. And then community programs, 17%, which is just almost $20 million. Go through a couple of the major projects. So we have some pretty major projects up on the bench this year in 24 that we're planning to construct. Rose Hill intersection improvement project, and then Garden Street, which is filling in some missing sidewalk portions and then improving that for bike and ped traffic. So that's a pretty exciting one to get done. On the capital design project, this one got a little littler. The font on here, we have several access to opportunity projects. I'm happy to get an individual list to you, or those are all called out in the budget, capital budget line items. We do have 3 major joint projects with ITD, 3 major overpass projects that are underway. And then the Amity Road Corridor, we have 5 projects in design, starting design in FY24, as well as a concept design for Linder, Chendon to 44. That's the one that has 5 bridges over the Boise River. So we're working through a concept design so that then eventually eventually we can do a full design and figure out the best way to phase in those projects, because it's gonna be a pretty big haul. Major right-of-way projects, again, a lot of them out South Meridian, Lake Hazel and Cloverdale, Victory to Overland. Linder, Overland to Franklin, we're also working on providing or purchasing right-of-way for that overpass project next year as we continue the final design of that. And then Stoddard, Victory to Overland over by Victory Middle School, which will include some improvements for the kids that are going there. Major capital construction projects, Eagle Road and Plaza. So this is part of a multi-year project with Eagle to work on the quadrant, or to get the, I think it's called a quadrant, done. Eagle and Plaza, and then eventually we'll do Eagle and second, Plaza and second, Eagle and State, all in that area. We're gonna start with Eagle and Plaza first. Eagle, Lake Hazel to Amity, and Lake Hazel and Eagle intersection. We just had the bid opening today for Lake Hazel and Maple Grove, and then we do have 2 bridges in Star that are just south of McMillan that are going to be improved. With that, I do have a staff recommendation. When the commission elects to make motions, I will need 2 separate motions, one to approve the budget, and then a separate motion to authorize the commission president to sign the property tax certification. And I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Christine. Any questions for staff? Commissioners?
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney?
Christine, let me just ask, just to be clear on this, because we've discussed it a lot in these meetings, the 36 million or so from the Idaho Transportation Department from state money that we were anticipating for a long time. Is that 36 million in the budget? The money's been transferred, et cetera. We have it. That's all taken care of. Is that correct?
The money, we have received the money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct, Sherwin?
And that's
we have
all?
Received the transfer. So is what you'll notice is on that budget summary sheet, you'll see in there that I show cash reserves for Highway 16. It's slide number 5, Ken. If you could get that up for me. Or if you'll get it up, it does show, let me go back here. There we go. So that Highway 16, 3.1 million and 3.5 million. So is what I'm showing is I'm showing an influx of cash out of our cash reserves for the Highway 16 related projects. And then correspondingly, there's expenses of 3.1 and 3.5 in the capital budget of FY24 and FY25. So that money was received in FY23. It's going to be sitting in, you'll see it as a line item in our financials once the audit is complete. And is what I will do is, as we go through the budgeting process, I will influx our budget with that money, essentially take it out of that line item in our cash balance and influx it into the budget and offset what those expenses then are related to capital projects that are lined out in that MOU.
Okay, so that line that says additional cash reserves, 35.7 million,
Right.
that primarily reflects that money?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, no, that's just cash reserves that are needed in order to fund the current budget and the expenditures. So that the additional costs of all of the projects that ACHD is doing and operational projects. So that's just additional funds that we're taking out of our cash reserve account to fund our budget.
Okay, so then, pardon me for my ignorance on this, I'm not an accountant. I'm just trying to figure out, because the total revenues here of 231 million
Correct.
is substantially higher
Right.
than our typical years have been most recently, like last year, 160 million or something like that.
Correct.
And so is it not correct that the biggest reason for the difference in the revenue that we show this year is because of that additional one-time money that we received from the state? Is that a fair statement?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, that's not, because this is showing projected revenues that are then going to be utilized matching our expenditures. So that revenue that we received, the 36.5 million, is never going to be shown in our budget as 36.5 million. I'm only going to show it as we show the expenses on the opposite side so that they'll net zero until we fully expend that 36.5 million. The main big difference in our revenue is that we have almost $31 million related to future facilities. So that immediately takes us up from 160 to 190. If you're comparing it to last year's
But the
budget.
future facilities is a cost. How
Right,
does
but we're-
building future facilities bring in revenue?
But it's not bringing in revenue, Madam President, Commissioner McKinney. We're utilizing cash reserves. One of the reasons that I've broken this out in revenue, so I call new revenue is revenue that we don't have in our bank account yet. New revenue, federal aid cost share. That's new revenue that we have not received yet. We will be getting those into our bank account within fiscal year 24. Rescheduled projects, future facilities, cash reserves, those are items that are sitting in our bank account, and I'm just showing you where they're then being allocated to, rather than having 60 or 70 million dollars just shown as from cash reserves. I'm saying I'm taking this from cash reserves and putting it to future facilities. And I'm taking this from cash reserves and I'm putting it to capital projects.
Okay, but part of what's in our banking account that's being used that way is that additional state money that we receive.
Right.
Okay.
So the corresponding number is that 3.1 million, is if that's what you're looking at. So if at the end of FY24 we fully expend the 3.1 million, the balance of the $36 million we got from the state for the Highway 16 related projects will be less, 3.1 million.
Okay, but it'll show up, but that money will still be in our cash reserves.
It will,
and we'll
yes.
be allocating it in various ways.
Correct.
So talking to a layman, if somebody, if one of my constituents says, help me understand why this is 231 million this year, and last year it was 160 million something, why is the number so different? What's the reason for that?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, so $31 million of it is specifically related to the future facilities. So we have a $23 million building at Traffic Ops that we're building that we haven't done before. So the other option is for us to then, the district has the cash available to be able to spend that money. Otherwise, we would end up issuing debt or taking on debt, and then you'd see a recurring cost annually for $3 million. I don't even know what those costs would be, but if we were going to pay for it over time. But this way, I'm saying we have the $30 million for future facilities as an expense. And I'm saying we're paying for that out of future facilities. Let me say it this way. By adding in the future facilities costs, we did not have to remove $30 million of normal day-to-day operations capital projects in order to fund that building of the Traffic Operations Center. We were able to do it with cash savings that we've had in our bank account. Does that help?
I think it does. And like I say, again, It's, maybe our general counsel can help me understand this.
He brought his calculator.
I think the confusion is the distinction between a budget and audited financial statements.
Okay,
And what we have in our bank accounts and cash reserves will only show up in the budget when we are actually have programmed in the budget expenses for that annual period. And when Christine does that, she pulls the money out of our financial statements, our bank accounts, to pay for those expenses as they are planned in that fiscal year.
okay. So in other words, the proposed budget doesn't necessarily show how much revenue is actually available. It shows the revenue that's in the budget.
It's projected, and as Christine had mentioned earlier, you will see when you get the audited financial statements, you will see that.
Okay. All right, that helps. Thank you.
Never had a
Oh.
lawyer have to, a middleman be less confusing than me. That's,
Well, and then I guess one additional question I have, and this maybe you're not the right one to ask this to then. The next question I have is, and my concern is, and this may be a discussion for another day, but in our 5-year work plan, what projects are there that are kind of next in line that aren't currently funded, but that we need to fund? Because that's kind of the next question, but I guess that's not a budget question now, that's a 5-year work plan discussion for later on. So, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Christine. Commissioners, any other questions? Thank you. Okay. Ms. Stacy, is there anyone here that would like to testify?
We do not have anybody that has mentioned online that they would like. Would anybody in the audience like to?
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Hanson.
Madam President, I would be honored to make a motion to adopt the fiscal '24 budget set to begin on October 1, 2023, and I would ask direction from the commission that we also apply the step-up salary for new employees, that executive team members not be exempt.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Yes.
Been moved and seconded.
Madam
Discussion.
President?
Commissioner McKinney.
Just a question of order here. This is a public hearing. Did we open and close the public hearing on this? I don't recall that we necessarily
Is it we don't need it?
took care of that formality.
Yep. Good.
Thank
I'll
you.
Just make a
Any
couple
other?
comments.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner
Great,
Hanson.
so I appreciate the enormous amount of work the staff has done to put this together. I always love to have the budget hearing because the people who are most directly affected by this budget often are in the room and listening in. I just want to let you know, you've done a terrific job this year. I'm really pleased that even though we're not taking the 3%, which we sometimes need to do, we're able to finance a 6% cost of living increase. And that's, I wish we could do more, but I think you made us proud across all aspects of the agency. We are entrusted by the public to take care of a public asset worth between $3 and $4 billion. And that public asset is primarily for the benefit of motor vehicles. Actually, it's almost overwhelmingly for the benefit of motor vehicles, as you know, everybody who's been out there chip sealing this summer in the endurable heat. And we have some really big capital projects that are out there on Amity and Cloverdale and Linder and Ustick and Lake Hazel and so forth. And we're soon going to dive into more on those associated with the Highway 16. As Commissioner McKinney pointed out, we'll start to spend down that, and that requires a lot of work. But what I'm particularly impressed with over my 11 years here is how much more we are integrating all aspects of transportation into each one of those projects. So we always called it an integrated 5-year work plan, but each year it gets more and more integrated so that it really does benefit everybody who's using in the right of way, whether you're driving, you're taking transit, walking, biking. And that's really great. because that then enhances the asset, and not only the asset that we manage, but the adjacent assets, the private and public assets, you know, that are out there. And that we're able to do some things more flexibly as we do maintenance. And this year, I think I've seen it more this year than any other year. With the maintenance of those assets, we've also gone in and made some improvements to safety, pedestrian safety, putting in bicycle lanes, taking things out that weren't necessary, that weren't being used, and showing that we're able to pivot and make it even more of a neighborhood asset. And kudos to the maintenance crew for being able to do that. I look forward to even more in the next zone we move into for maintenance. And the other is that we've also made this commitment to doing one and done, trying to figure out, and this is really hard, I know, because there's a lot of moving parts, and you don't want to say, well, how do we get everything in this one street segment to be done at the same time? And that requires some moving of some budget things too, to make sure that a sidewalk gets complete, even though the principal reason we're going in there is for maintenance. But also we have to check on the crosswalks and the ADA facilities. So there's all these things that have to come together. And there's a commitment we made a number of years ago. Let's try and move towards one and done. And you've done a great job, I think, moving towards that. And as a result, we have more sidewalks that have been completed, more crosswalks that have been completed. There's more we can do. But this budget, I think, reflects that, and that going into the next phase shows that we're committed to continuing that, even as we continue to expand the footprint of what ACHD is responsible for taking care of. So I just want to send a special kudos out to everybody who's put in all the work this year and is prepared to do it next year.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other? Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Yes, I would like to kind of tag on to what Commissioner Hanson said. I agree with pretty much all of that. I'm so grateful that this agency has the quality and caliber of people that we have working here. And one of the serious jobs of this commission is to make sure they want to stay. And so we're doing everything we can to do that. And I know we'll continue in that regard. I almost took a big deep breath tonight because we came so close to stumping Christine. She has had 2 near misses, and that's that'd be the first in nine budgets that I've sat through. And
You keep forgetting when I stumped her. You keep forgetting that 2 years ago, but that's okay.
Okay, well,
I'll give you credit for that.
And as Commissioner Hanson said about the once and done, I remember mentioning that in, I think, February of 2015, and most of the folks in our executive team thought I was just telling a lame joke. And then all of a sudden, it's working out really well that we can do a better job for the taxpayers especially, and the roads in the long haul by adopting that once and done philosophy. I have one serious note, and I've probably caused a few people to wince when I say this, but you know, we have a real problem in this county keeping people safe. And I'll tell you that this commissioner doesn't care what it's going to take to keep kids from being run over by people that run red lights or make illegal left turns or whatever. If you won't slow down, we'll slow you down. And that's some of the design features that we have coming. And there, I said it. Thank you.
I just want to say, I mean, it's already been said, but we're just eternally grateful to each and every one of you that are here and that aren't here. You've done a tremendous job in a very interesting time with, you know, shipping shortages, right? We've had such a unique year battling weather, all sorts of things. And I think we're just so eager to see the Traffic Ops Center be built. and get that going and see these amazing projects that we're very proud of, and having the community respond and see them. And they're already seeing just some of the amazing projects and responding so well. And we couldn't do, and all of it is because of you all. And so we just eternally are so grateful for each and every one of you, the commitment that you have to the mission, the quality of the work, and the care that you have for the population that we all serve and try to protect. And yeah, we won't be able to tell you thanks enough. And hopefully the budget is one piece of that that shows that in action. So with that, it's been moved and seconded. If there isn't any other discussion, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to authorize you as president to sign the property tax certification.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any naysayers? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item number 2, Resolution 2409, reserving foregone property tax revenue. This is a request for adoption. Did you
Yes,
want to
Madam
come
President,
up? Oh, yes, Commissioner.
we can
Gold?
go ahead and just make a motion on
All right.
that, correct?
Sounds great.
I would move that, that we reserve the foregone property tax revenue and that we adopt resolution 2409.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. Public communication. Is there anyone that would like to address the public or address the commission at this time? With that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.